Okay, so let's get started. Today we're going to talk about briefly about cognitive psychology. I'm probably going to do a couple different videos, and then once you've watched all the videos in the crash courses, I want to go ahead and have you guys take the quiz to earn your attendance and participation points for this week. So just a reminder, there's going to be several videos in each of the folders. I'm going to release the folder as soon as the content is fully deployed. So as soon as all the videos are up for the next week, I'll go ahead and release that so you'll have access to those things and you can work ahead if you want. Remember that the quiz has to be completed by Friday at 5 p.m. So go ahead and get those things done if you want to. You only need to do one folder each week. We're going to follow the dates on the syllabus. So this week is cognition, or thinking and intelligence. Again, there's 2 crash course videos and there's going to be a couple of different lectures. It's going to be really important from here on out that you guys read everything that I post because I'm not going to see you in class and I'm probably not going to remember to tell you everything in each of the lecture videos about what's going on in the course. I'll try, but you know, it's important. Also, don't forget that I'm holding electronic office hours. All you have to do is click on that BB Learn Collaborate button that's right in our remote classroom. I'll be there. Once you log in, I'll see that you're there and turn on my video. I've got my audio on now, so anyone who joins might catch some of this lecture. Okay, so today we're going to talk about cognitive psychology. Cognitive psychology is the scientific study of how we perceive, remember, think, speak, solve problems. Really anything to do with mental process. So humans have a ton of mental processes, right? It's really important that we have these processes for processing information, acquiring information, storing it, memory. All these things are part of cognition, okay? And so the basic building blocks of cognition are concepts. Okay, so concepts, we've all heard that term before, but defining it is a little bit slippery. So concepts are really ideas that represent a class or a category of objects, events, or activities. So we have a concept for sports. A concept, there's lots of different layers of concepts as well. So you can think about fruit as a concept, okay? So you can think about fruit without actually thinking about a specific type of fruit, although often when you do identify a concept, one specific example will jump into your head. For most of you, when I say the word fruit, the first thing that you think of is going to be, first thing that you think of will probably be an apple. And a prototype is a way of thinking about concepts. So within each concept, within each category, there is usually a best example for that category. So that example, that thing that first comes to mind for us, might be an apple. Okay, so in a category of dog, maybe it looks something like this dog here. Or for a doctor, maybe it looks like this. Now, prototypes are usually generalized across individuals, but that does not mean that everyone's prototype for their concept is the same. Our prototypes can be informed by our experiences, what we see in the world around us, what we see in TV shows and movies. Those can all inform our prototypes as well. So a prototype is really the best example of a category in our own brains. Okay? And so those are sort of the building blocks of cognition that we're talking about. They're really just ways of thinking about what we think. There's lots of areas of cognition that we study as human beings. So let's talk a little bit more about problem solving. Okay, so problem solving is a really complex cognitive task that we all engage in pretty consistently. It's not innately human, right? So there are other animals that demonstrate problem solving, but it's pretty obvious that human beings are most adept at problem solving. So what is problem solving? Well, first, before we even talk about problem solving, let's talk about the problems that we face. Some of our problems are well-defined, and some of our problems are ill-defined. So those ill-defined problems are more like reality. Well-defined problems are more like math problems. So well-defined problems, we have all the information we need to solve the problem, okay? That doesn't always happen in real life. Sometimes it does, okay? So sometimes a well-defined problem, you know where you're going, you know where you're coming from, and you know the steps that you need to take in order to get there. Ill-defined problems, you kind of know most of the things you need to know, but probably not all of it, okay? And that's more like real life. When we face a problem, we know that we have some mental blocks and some issues with being successful in our problem solving. So some of those blocks are having to do with how we interpret the problem that we're facing, and some of those blocks have to do with how we attempt to solve the problem. So we've all faced problems in our lives that we weren't super successful at dealing with, right? And these are some of the issues, the stumbling blocks, whatever you want to call them, that cause us to not do great at problem solving. So fixation is the inability to interpret the problem in a new way. So if you get stuck on something, if you're looking at it over and over again and you can't figure out the answer, you don't know what to do, and it might be because you're fixated on one interpretation of that question. Someone else could come in and look at it, look at that problem, look at that question, and interpret it in a different way and more easily solve it. So that's fixation. Functional fixedness is the inability to see an object as having multiple functions. So I don't remember, we might have talked about this a little bit before briefly, but if you're on a picnic and it suddenly starts to rain, you gather everything up and you run to your car, but it's too late, you get drenched because you didn't think about using the picnic blanket as an umbrella. Okay, so that's functional fixedness. We see it in a lot of different ways because we're unable to think of novel or creative ways of using sort of objects in our environment. And then a strategy block is when you attempt to solve a different problem in the same way. So basically, you used this solution before, okay? You're going to just keep using it. You have this mental set for solving the problem. So you're going to do the same thing even though the problem might be too different to apply that same strategy, okay? So we as human beings often will implement strategies to solve a problem that have been successful for us in the past, and that's usually a really good thing. But if the problem is a little too different from the one we solved earlier, it won't work, right? So we have a mental set, we're going to keep using it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and that is, a problem, a strategy block. So we've come to our first activity. I'm going to try to do this with you guys. It's going to be basically impossible because usually we do this in class and you can talk to a neighbor. I'm going to show you an image on the screen next, and I guess I can show it to you now. What I want for you guys to do is utilize the materials on the table. You're going to try to make the candle adhere to the wall and light it in a way so that the wax does not drip onto the table. Okay, so take a minute, pause this video, come up with a solution for how you're going to adhere the candle to the wall so that the wax does not drip on the table. Did you pause it? I feel like you didn't pause it. You might have paused it. Anyways, if you didn't, I will just give you the results anyways. So most people, not everyone, you guys are a smart group and you know what we're talking about today, so you probably came up with a good solution, but most people will utilize the tacks and try to tack the candle to the wall, or they'll try to use the matches and burn the wax a little bit so that the wax melts and you adhere the candle to the wall. and then they'll move the table away or do something along those lines in order to prevent the wax from spilling onto the table. Now, what's the best solution is actually using the tack box, this little box that's holding the tacks, tacking that to the wall, and then putting the candle in the box. Most people, not everyone, but most people, I think it's around 50 or 60%, will not realize that they can utilize this little box in the activity because they simply believe that the box is there to hold the tacks. Okay? And that is an example of functional fixedness. Okay, so you don't realize that you can use this box to hold the candle on the wall. So that's my functional fixedness example for today. Now, when we're faced with problems, we have two main solution strategies that human beings use. One of those is an algorithm, and one is a heuristic. Okay? We are very, very good as human beings at using heuristics. Heuristics are rules of thumb. Okay? These are quick shortcuts for us mentally that don't require a ton of energy, and they help us solve problems. Okay? An algorithm, on the other hand, is a step-by-step procedure for finding the correct solution. And it always leads to the correct solution if it's implemented for the correct type of problem. So when you think about an algorithm, you think about a mathematical equation, okay? A way of solving something that's systematic and it's going to work. A heuristic is more like an eyeball. You're probably going to get close. Sometimes it may absolutely work. It's a rule of thumb. Okay, so heuristics are great, but and they help us save a lot of energy, but they can lead us astray. Okay, and so some of the problem-solving heuristics we're going to talk about in the next video. So that's the first cognition video. See you soon.